Hey, it's Merja here. How are you today? I hope you're really well. Great to be here with you today on this week's live Q&A. So let's get going. I'll just grab some questions that were submitted to us. And if you're wondering how you can submit your questions, you can email us at desk@infxproject.com. And if you want to stay anonymous, that's totally fine too. So let's get into it. The first question today is, I am an INFJ who's been a team leader in the past. About 5 years ago, I became burnt out because I was trying to juggle my family and work responsibilities. I was also bullied by my manager. I was signed off sick from work. I haven't worked since. During this time, I discovered my MBTI and have been doing lots of healing work, energy and stress levels, boundaries, self-esteem, etc. I feel ready to work again. I'm scared and I don't place confidence in people easily. How do you suggest I approach returning to work and lower my chances of burning out again? Fantastic question. Any one of us who have experienced burnout at work, I have experienced, the question asker obviously has experienced, and I'm sure there are many, many more out there who have experienced the burnout from work. As an INF type, it's quite easy because we run with intuition and feeling, and oftentimes, unfortunately, what happens is that workplaces are very sensory thinking spaces. So naturally already for intuitive feelers, being out there, especially introverted, being out there in the world and doing sensory, out there in the sensory world, doing thinking activities, it's actually draining. That in and of itself is draining because both INFJs and INFPs, of course, as you know, have thinking and sensory functions and faculties in the inner child positions. So this can be very, very challenging. So one of the best things in preparing yourself to go back to work, to a sensory thinking environment, is to acclimatize your inner children so that you're not predominantly relying on them as you're, out there, but instead that they're in a supportive role, but they are healthy, they're looked after, they feel validated even before you go to work. So our inner children, our tertiary and our inferior functions, they don't tend to get they tend to get complicated. Things tend to get complicated with those parts of us when we are under pressure. And of course, when we're under pressure, they kind of come out. If they haven't felt soothed or they haven't felt fulfilled or acknowledged, they come out and they assert themselves in situations. And this can get really difficult. So if you're starting to do the for people within work, which is building relationships with the different four aspects of you, the thinker, the feeler, the intuitive, and the sensor, then what happens is the better you get at that integration work, the faster you're able to recognize when something goes sideways at work and you don't become as reactive because you recognize your inner child starting to come up and out. And so you recognize that, so you're able to say, hang on a second, inner child, thank you very much for raising your voice within. Thank you so much for saying that whatever is going on here is not okay. But I will say to you that your input, while it's valued, it's not going to be the only way that we're going to be operating here. Which then, of course, means that, the grown-up parts of you are able to kind of regain the power in those situations, and they're going to be more able to communicate your needs in situations. So say, for example, somebody wants you to meet a deadline that's actually impossible for you to meet. Instead of getting upset and this person is an INFJ, instead of getting the 10-year-old inner child, the thinker, come out and be at times abrupt and rude, we can use the grown-up faculties, the feeler and the intuition part, and say, hey, you know what, you want me to do this way, but unfortunately I won't be able to do it this way and meet your deadline. So is there another way you'd like me to do this task so that we can meet the deadline and that it's actually possible to get there? So you can see how you go from a reactive child into like childlike sense, inside, into, okay, solution oriented, what's possible here, what can we do differently, kind of a grown up, proactive, solution oriented grown up. So that's kind of the main thing for me, is start building those relationships with the 4 people within you. If you haven't already checked out the 4 people within ebook, you can grab it for free at merjasumiloff.com. It'll actually explain everything. And if you're in our INFJ, INFP Healing Facebook group, you'll of course have access to the learning units, which are even in more detail for the INFJs and INFPs. So start there, and once you're comfortable with that material, ask some more questions, maybe get in touch with us at desk@infxproject.com and just say, hey, what are my next steps? Here's where I'm at. What should I do next? And we'll come up with some solutions for you. Okay. I hope that answers your question. The main thing really is to understand that, you're wanting to lower your chances of burning out again. The main thing is to truly recognize, get such good relationship with your inner children that you recognize when they're starting to come up, when you're starting to rely on them predominantly, and then start soothing them and say, hey, you know what? No, let's not try to do this work with the sensory thinking faculties only. Let's engage those grown-up parts of us as well, predominantly, and then have the sensory thinkers as supportive roles in the background. It's really what it really comes down to is recognizing what your strengths are, and then working it from there. Something else that might be useful for you as well is to know your Enneagram type. So if you don't know about Enneagram, if you go online and just Google enneagraminstitute.com, they have good resources there, and their test is, I think it's a paid test, but it's an excellent test. It's the best test for Enneagram that I've come across. Okay, so I hope that answers your question, and let me know when you're ready to keep going forward. Once you're familiar with the inner child work, the 4 people within work, and then we can get you to a point where you can actually start entering the workforce again. Okay, I look forward to hearing from you.